got a Barstool Van talk. So I'm a pretty big Barstool fan. I've been following them, or at least reading their website, or they're following their content, I should say. I don't read their website anymore. Since what, junior year, sophomore year of high school. So that would have been 07, 08, pretty much when they were just starting to get off the ground.
Yeah.
They were recently bought by Turning Group about a year ago, 2 years ago now. And they've been growing pretty quickly. I think they're actually probably the fastest growing social media.
That's what they claim
company.
anyway. Yeah.
And everybody, they're collaborating with pretty much every celebrity. I mean, Jake Paul just last week was on Barstool and became part of Team Portnoy. So last week they premiered Barstool Van Talk with PFT commenter and Barstool Big Cat, which is an interesting decision because Barstool has always been against ESPN, especially after Deflategate. Dave Portnoy, the Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool, was basically like, "Fuck ESPN, I'm done with them." So then they team up for this late night show at 1 a.m. and then a week later they cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the statement from Skipper, the head of ESPN, then there's a retort from Portnoy as well. It sounds like ESPN basically realized that the Barstool brand is a little being nice would be saying edgy, being more combative. You could say it's sexist, misogynistic, at least. They're not very PC.
No,
they cross boundaries. They openly attack people sometimes. I'm not a huge fan of them because I think they're really up and down with that shit. But either way, the statement from Skipper said they thought they could distance themselves from the Barstool brand, which doesn't make any sense because you got the show, calling it Barstool Van Talk, which, whoever made that decision, whatever, but you brought them in because they're Barstool, because they're famous, specifically PFT and Big Cat, two of the two biggest stars basically from Barstool Sports, right? Part of my take is enormous podcast. So you wanted them for Barstool, but now that we're reminded that Barstool, has some issues with their brand and how advertisers might think of that. Now you're worried. Like, what you think you were fucking buying? Like, that's what really confuses me, because I thought on the surface their efforts with digital has been making a lot of sense with Desus and Mero coming in to do something, and they just hired Katie Nolan. So, I thought it was a smart move, but now you're going to backpedal that. It's questionable.
ESPN's made a lot of questionable decisions though in the last couple of years with their broadcasting, and they've been losing a lot of money, and they haven't been able to adapt to the digital age very well. Especially because their flagship show, SportsCenter, relies on highlights, and it relied on the fact that people couldn't get highlights anywhere else but there before. And now that you can go on Twitter and see everything immediately, what's the point of a show like SportsCenter, which is they lost their bread and butter. So you turn to something like Barstool and you're like, okay, we need to get this audience, which Barstool has pegged down the 18 to 24-year-old audience like no other company in the world at this point. Like, that bro culture is so strong with them. And it actually seems like a pretty savvy move by ESPN. I mean, you're giving up some of your values and morals, compromising on that in some way, but you're saying, I want this demographics, I want to keep my company around.
You're also winning.
Right.
You're hiring people that call you out all the time. Like, you won.
Right. Yeah. I mean, part of my take is a satire on ESPN shows. Directly. Even the name.
When they first made it. Like,
it's amazing. So I don't know. ESPN, I don't really have a lot of faith in that company at this point to really create something successful. They've swung and missed so many times, and especially as the contracts for the big leagues are coming up. Like, I think the NHL is the first one up in a couple of years, and it's the NFL and the NBA. Amazon and Facebook, all those like huge companies are going to take over those streaming rights, and it's going to totally change the landscape. So I don't even see ESPN being as significant as it is right now in 5 years.
Yeah, no, ESPN's not going away. Like, they're fine. No. They're just not. They've plateaued and declined a little bit. You always got to keep it in perspective. And like you were saying about how like highlights is not a currency anymore for sports coverage. So they need to invest in personalities. That's why they did the 6 with Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, because they're unique people.
Right, but then you basically put a muzzle on Jamel Hill.
Exactly. And like you have Pablo Torre, he's probably their biggest, cultivated young person.
Mhm.
But and getting Katie Nolan, she's like was the ascendant, digital star. But get the next Katie Nolan
Right.
and the next one. Katie Nolan, we've known who Katie Nolan was for like 4 years.
She won an
You know?
Emmy.
Yeah, like that's not she's not a secret anymore.
Exactly.
But yeah, like follow House of Highlights on Instagram. You don't need to
Right.
watch Sports Center, and like people like me and you, we're like a little more hardcore sports fans. We just read sites like TheRinger.com.
Yep.
I don't need to watch someone tell me stuff that I already understand at a deeper level. So when you can get the highlights elsewhere, making original sports programming, it's going to be personality driven. And with the success of First Take and Undisputed on Fox, it's
Mm-hmm.
so. Yeah, I agree though. They're not going to, if they lose the sports rights, who knows? But they're on the decline.
Yeah, and Skipper doesn't even seem to. I mean, he's been around there forever, but I don't know if he really has a grasp on how to move forward in the new age of media at this point. So I don't really have a lot of faith in them.